What's good, y'all? Kid Jerome here. I'm working my way through 1001 albums you must hear before you die, where I listen to a different album every day, and the fourth one is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is the debut album by the Florida Southern rock band Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, released in November 1976. While I'm loosely familiar with Tom Petty, I've never listened to any of his projects on their own. I've only heard his singles on classic rock radio. My grandpa would play him in his truck a lot growing up. I'm familiar with Free Fallin', which is absent from this record. So I was really excited to learn what he had to offer, what he contributed to the musical scene around him. My first impression was the energy was staggering. The first track, Rockin' Around With You, has these consistent train-like drums just chugging along. And then in comes Tom Petty's just very wide, very textured vocals. Kind of sounds like it's coming from every direction at once, really just enveloping the listener. Everything is long and drawn out, and it's a very specific vibe, very well executed. While the opening track is very high energy, very walky, very working, the second track, Breakdown, is dynamic respite in the sense that the verses are very chill. It's very, very relaxed, very cool. And the choruses are loud, anthemic, energetic, confident. Breakdown is perhaps one of my favorite classic rock songs of all time, with the memorable, catchy guitar lick, the stanky ornamentation. It's masterful, absolutely. I was very impressed with Breakdown. This chill vibe comes back later in the album on Luna. It's very alluring, very sensuous, very drawn out. Tom is really stretching out all of his vowels. It feels like a cold glass of scotch at midnight. It's just this very sunglasses on, leather jacket, cool song. There's no shortage of catchy moments on this album. We have the guitar lick and Breakdown. We have the bridge in Fooled Again. We have the drums in the opening track. A lot of these things really stick with you. They really make a lasting impression. It's very successful commercially in that sense, that you kind of just want to hear it again. It feels familiar after the first listen. That's not even mentioning the cool walky bass lines in Rockin' Around With You and Mystery Man. There's lots of very simple instrumentation on this album, but there's also a certain power in simplicity. I mean, at the end of the day, is it more important to be impressive or memorable? What songs do you find yourself really going back to? I feel like taking it down a couple notches just to make sure people get the point is perfectly valid, and one of the greatest strengths, I'd say, of this album. That's not to say there aren't impressive moments on this album. There's this short, wailing guitar bridge on Fooled Again. There's this frantic, uplifting moment at the end of American Girl where the guitar is just going in all sorts of directions before breaking out into this high-pitched guitar solo at the very end. It's this almost transcendent moment, especially when vocals come in, and it's these long, textured, drawn-out, chorus-like vocals that we've heard a couple times throughout the album. It's this wonderful, amazing moment, and when it fades out, it feels like it faded out certainly too soon. I feel like they could have done this for a couple more bars. It definitely feels like one of the strongest moments on the album, and certainly a strong way to punctuate the album, but it also feels like a missed opportunity. Tom Petty's vocals are kind of an acquired taste. I'm not going to lie to you. They feel very Bob Dylan-y at sometimes, and not necessarily in a good way. It's very nasally, sometimes strained, very unpolished, not professional in any sense of the word. With all that being said, on the second or third listen, they felt more endearing, as if it's just like my best friend singing along to the radio. It's less of a serious vibe, and I feel like that really contributes to the music in a lot of ways. Acquired taste is definitely the way I'd put it, and I feel like I've acquired it. The lyrical content is very indicative of the time. It's very, rock and roll. It feels like in a lot of ways this might be a predecessor to some of the more anthemic rock songs like Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll, like Kiss's I Wanna Rock and Roll All Night. Just this I mean, it's a little corny looking back on it, but at the time, it was more of a celebration of music and life. And what's more valid than that? I mean, we all love music. They all love music. They want to rock and roll all night. He has songs where he falls in love with the wild one forever. He has some songs where he copes with heartbreak in Hometown Blues. A lot of high school lyrical content, but we're always going to need these kinds of songs to be able to relate to, see ourselves in. If we didn't need heartbreak songs, if we didn't need love songs, then we wouldn't need Taylor Swift. I feel like these were well executed. I feel like at the end of the day, they did what they intended to do, although it wasn't necessarily unexplored territory. One moment that really disappointed me was "Strangered in the Night." It's kind of a racist ballad. Let me just read out some lyrics for you. Well, I didn't see no shotgun, I didn't see no knife, but I saw this crazy black guy with the demon in his eye. And then the next verse is, then everybody scattered, I heard some woman scream, God damn, you old black bastard, you blowing away my dreams. Why was it so important to him that they were identified as black? Why was it a crazy black guy? Why was it a old black bastard? These are very clear and problematic characterizations, and it's certainly disappointing for a moment like this to put a damper on an album that I was otherwise having fun listening to, that I was otherwise enjoying very much so. It's interesting to note that this album was only 22 years separated from Brown versus Board of Education. Tom Petty was 4 years old when that ruling took place, and his parents attended segregated schools. So there's a lot of generational racism that people are still working through today. And it's really important to keep in mind that these struggles weren't even that long ago. The wounds are still very fresh for many people. And we're still playing songs like this in cafes. And I didn't even know I didn't even know this was on the album until just now. So it's unfortunate that I had to hear it and address it, because it makes the album difficult for me to recommend without caveats. All in all, I think that Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is a very by-the-numbers classic rock album. I think that has very catchy moments, and I think that it has one problematic moment that unfortunately spoils the experience for me on some level. Some tracks that really stood out to me were Rocking Around With You, Breakdown, and Luna. I would recommend this album to fans of Lynyrd Skynyrd, fans of Billy Squier, and beginner to intermediate drummers. There's a lot of very interesting drum instrumentation on here. It definitely outlines how important the steady groove is. I think there's a lot to be learned for drummers on this album. I would give this album a 4 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know what you thought about the album in the comments. Go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed what I had to say. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss tomorrow's video. And never stop listening. Peace.